Welcome to this webinar put on by Journeyman Asheville. I'm Skylar Wilson, the Director of Journeyman for the last 2 years, and we have a number of programs that serve teens 12 to 17, including in-school programs, after-school programs, activity groups, and rites of passage adventure weekends, as well as camping trips. And we're really excited to be here with you tonight presenting our newest program, which is called Pathways, and it's an attempt to create a closed container that both offers everything that Journeyman's currently doing and offering, but also offers it within a close cohort of 6 to 8 teenagers with 2 mentors and an elder, and also our larger mentoring community will be supporting as well, and as well as other community members. And so it's our way of trying to recreate the village and to recognize that teens, while they need to pull away from their parents, they also need both support and challenges that are specific to their maturity level. Welcome. Yeah, it's good to, hey, Kevin. Hey, Bob. Thanks for joining. And Aaron, awesome to see you here. I've been with Journeyman for the last 2 years, and I've been mentoring for over 20 years for teenagers and adults. And it's exciting to be here with you tonight to talk about our new Pathways program. Yeah, we'll start with you, Misty. We've got
Hello.
Misty. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi there. My name is Misty Boachi. I came to know about Journeyman through my 2 sons' journey, and I'll be happy to share more about that tonight. I'm in the Asheville area, and I'm a healthcare provider. I'm a pharmacist by training, and I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Misty. And Kinsman, we'll pass it to you.
Hey, I'm Kinsman. I know I've met several of you guys. Hey, Bob, nice to see you. But yeah, so I'll be the lead mentor for the Pathways program, and I got involved with Journeyman back in 2020. I just talked to the right people of wanting to get involved with mentoring and supporting teenage boys, and somebody introduced me to the previous executive director. I went and joined and staffed for the Rites of Passage Adventure Weekend in 2022. And since then, I've been volunteering consistently, and now I'm on the board of directors and lead crafting passages, where we teach anywhere from like a 4-week series to a 10-week series of like glass blowing or woodworking and things like that. Yeah, I love being involved, and I'm looking forward to meeting the boys that come in for Pathways, as well as just all the other boys and staff that we connect with throughout the program.
Thanks, Kinsman. I'll pass it to you, Kevin, if you want to share about your experience being a mentor, and then Bob, you can share next if you'd like to.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Kevin. Kind of newer to Journeyman. I started getting involved this summer, and was able to plug into the in-school mentoring groups Journeyman does. So I have a few, I guess 1 7th grade group and a couple 8th grade groups. And it's been quite an amazing experience to feel how deep we can get in just 1 week or 1 hour every week. So yeah, I'm really grateful for that, and excited for what Pathways has to offer as potentially a deeper dive on the in-school groups. So happy to be here.
Hello, everyone. Bob Ringel. I'm a retired educator and in my 3rd year of mentoring at North Buncombe Middle School.
Awesome. Thanks, Bob. Great. And since we're a small group, if either of you other parents joining want to just do a quick introduction, you're welcome to, but no pressure before we continue.
My kid just ran out the door when I got this on here. I actually just opened the email and I was like, wow, this is such great timing because I just got back from a rites of passage adventure. So he'll be back in a minute. But anyway, thanks for doing this. I'm excited to learn more.
Thanks, Morna.
So Eric, maybe I'd love to hear you speak to just introduce yourself and speak to some of the benefits of our that this Pathways program that we're going to be starting in the spring can support teens who may or may not be in therapy, but are needing the support of this container.
So my name is Eric Belsterling, and I'm honored to be here. Honored to be involved in Journeyman. I'm a licensed clinical mental health counselor, a licensed clinical addiction specialist, certified sex addiction therapist, certified multiple addiction therapist, and a certified clinical supervisor. And I say all that, but most importantly, I'm a wounded healer. I've had many bouts with different addictions in my life, which all stems from trauma, a combination of trauma, attachment wounds, abuse, and neglect. And so one of my missions is to I co-create a world of unconditional compassion and integration by modeling that. With Skylar's leadership, the Pathways program is the next evolution really in Journeyman, and where hopefully we will be not only giving young boys a rite of passage experience and teaching them about emotional regulation, but we also have access to professional help if so needed. And one of the beauties about Journeyman, and particularly the Pathways program, is I believe is that there's only so much I can do as a therapist when I talk to a young boy. I've worked with young men for 15 to 20 years in wilderness therapy, and boys have to learn through doing. You have to get them out in their body, doing some type of an activity. And if you can do that, you get relationship, you build trust. And I think Journeyman provides that opportunity that I can't do in my therapy office. And I see it as an incredible adjunct to professional therapy. And that's why I'm excited about it. And again, as a therapist, when I can send a young man to, say, a ROPA or the Pathways program, it provides another missing link, I really believe, in therapy, especially with boys, because boys will learn through doing. You have to get them out of. I can only do so much in a therapy office, but when I'm doing a bow drill or teaching them how to make a figure four trap, or we're playing frisbee golf, or we're playing football or kicking the soccer ball, I can really tap in and make connection. And that's the real beauty of Journeyman. And then they see hopefully mature males role modeling mature masculinity. That really is the gold. And that's what we have here in our mentor program. So I'm super excited about it.
Amazing. Thank you so much for all of that, and for all of your dedication, your work to teenagers, but also the healing of our culture with addiction, and just looking at those core reasons that addiction arises from disconnection, and from trauma or wounding, or just the stuff that all of us go through, but without an intact community, without the mirroring, without the connection, while that's happening, it can get stored in the body, as we know. And and I love what you said about the modeling, and about needing to learn by doing. I mean, we all have that, but teenagers especially are resistant to being told what they need or what's good for them, especially when they're in pain. And so often play and just getting out into experiences like in the wilderness, or having fun together, or just dropping in within a supportive environment, a council where we're each showing up as our authentic selves. Um, and they don't necessarily have to process the things directly. We can allow for that to come up when the time's right. And so, yeah, I've just, in my experience, mentoring, um, seen that with teenagers, often the backdoor approach is a good one. It's like, hey, we're here. We're not telling you what to do or how to be. We just want to listen, get to know you, and and we really enjoy this. That's another aspect of Journeyman that, and I think with counselors too, like teenagers have great BS detectors. It's like if you're there because you want to be there, that's very different. That has a power to it. A power to like, I'm here because I enjoy connecting and being part of community, being part of um, um, a human being, part of a community that connects to the natural world and connects to life in a vital way. And so that nourishing that is kind of the core of our of all of our programs and our culture within Journeyman. Um, yeah, is a way that we create spaces that can provide healing and in all kinds of ways that we can't necessarily um, predict, but we see time and time again.
And I love what you said about addiction being about disconnection. It's so true. And the
Mm,
opposite is I would say just not connection, but authentic, authentic connection. There's a
mhm.
big difference, right? And you're right.
Yeah,
Teenagers have major bullshit detectors, and they
yeah.
know. And so if
Hmm.
I'm not walking my talk, they pick up on that.
Hmm.
So again, the piece here is being I have to model it. I have to be that change, and
Hmm.
yep.
I loved what you said about what I heard in that proverb is like um is the need to like affirm a teenager's fire, that there's a certain element of like being a teenager which is about them um having spaces that are healthy to be in their fire, to rebel, or to like be angry even, and have that be okay, as a part of the process. It's like not just jumping ahead to what is acceptable behavior, how do I solve this problem? And so much in schools is about solving the problem, and they internalize so much because there's so many environments where that's they can't be their full selves, or they're being told how to be. And that's, I think, a huge part of what we provide in Journeyman is spaces where they don't have to hold that down. They don't have to um, hold back. That if they're having like anger come up or something, it's like, hey, I see that. I feel that too sometimes, like affirming that, um, but then, as the trust in the relationship builds, perhaps there's spaces, we often see that there's spaces where either through a challenge or um, um, through an activity that where they can express some of that energy, um, and that they can start to get to the core of what really what's the core of that dissatisfaction or anger, and how is that good? How is it actually a good thing that's going to be vital in their discovery process on their path, rather than being told by a teacher to, to shut up and go to the principal's office. And it's like, yeah, I feel for them so much, because so many environments that we have in our um, quote unquote modern or postmodern world is not conducive to our primal nature. And teenagers can't avoid often their primal nature. Not all of them, a lot of them are coming to Journeyman for different reasons, but that is an element of what we affirm. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. And you reminded me of another really key piece in eliciting change in adolescence, particularly internal motivation, is developmentally where they're at is they're in identity versus role confusion. If you're going to use Ericksonian's developmental stages, basically they learn from their peers. Their peers are their biggest influence right now. How do I fit in? How am I different? How am I distinct? But peers are the gold standard. And so Journeyman again provides that where I can as an individual therapist, they're in with other, 15, 20 other boys, young men, uh, they're interacting there. And then they get a chance to interact then with an adult mature masculine. But again, they're learning off of each other, which I really excites me. And I can't do that as an individual therapist. That's why it's such a great augment to therapy.
I love that. And I love being in the groups that we create, and specifically thinking about um the containers where they get to show up with the same group or a similar group of teens, um and kind of get through the different phases of getting to know each other, um and model after one another, but um with mentors who are also modeling too. It's not just one or the other. They're not um, just finding a group that's disconnected from all the adults, because the adults, can't be trusted. Or it's like, no, this is a middle way where um, experimentation can happen, but also fun and making that connection, intergenerational connection, um, that is so often not made in our society. It's like so segregated, and that's a huge healing component that I find even still, like it's a big part of my own healing process with Journeyman, is like how nourishing it feels to play and to be authentic, and um to have like different ages, maturity levels and ages, and in the same room, in the same group, in the same um activity. That's a huge part as well, is like um of the gift of our program. Um, another element that perhaps you could speak to from a as a therapist is the power of non-judgment, and of listening, of compassion. I think a lot of I guess we're speaking right now to therapists, so they're already going to know that, but we're also developing this pathways program too. So there's kind of both those different um, ways of speaking to this. But if there's anything that you want to say about those ways of being with teenagers, with, you know, um, as a skill parents can learn as well.
Sure, sure. You mentioned, non-judgment um, and empathy. And again, like as I go through my own therapy and process, number one, I'm in my own therapy. To be a good therapist, I believe I have to live it. I have to model it. If I'm not doing that, I'm not an effective therapist. So I'm in my own therapy, and it I'm learning that, non-judgment empathy starts within me. It starts with me. Am I being non-judgmental? Am I being empathetic with all my parts? Um, and sometimes I'm not. I'm not. And identifying that and learning how to literally reparent myself. And I can't do that alone. I need other wise counsel. But it's an inside job, just like trust. It's like, I have to ask myself, do I trust me? And because, and sometimes I don't. And so I need counsel. I need to know how to ask for help. And But these skills are inside, they start within me. And in our culture, unfortunately, the whole Western civilization, I believe, it's when I get this, when I get that, when I get the job, when I get the degree, when I get blah blah blah, I'm going to be okay. And no, it's in here. It starts within me. And and I have to be around other like-minded people. So I'm particularly just thinking of parents right now. I feel for parents right now in 2025 on having to navigate not only a very difficult world, but having to then raise a mature son or daughter or child, uh, and it's daunting. So, and the work is when I work with a parent, with a teenager, or I work with the family, I tell the parents, if you want your son or daughter to change, guess who has to change? Guess who has to live it? Yep, you. And you can, and you need to be around other parents who are going through similar things. But the work is internal. So that self-judgment are you being self-judging to yourself? If so, how can you be kinder? How can you look at yourself with more self-compassion? And that is a skill that I'm learning. I'm 35 years into my own hero's journey, okay? And I have to do the hero's journey multiple times a day. Um, but the work is me. Am I being self-compassionate? Am I being empathetic? And empathy really, I believe, and this comes from the work of Dan Siegel and John Kabat-Zinn, is it really starts within me. Am I in touch with my own internal states, my body? Am I able to self-regulate myself? Um, because really, I don't understand what's going on in say you, Skylar. I can look at your face and go, "Oh, he looks like he's in fear," and I relate to fear. I know what that feels like in my body, right? But if I'm completely cut off from my body, I can't really empathize with you, right? If I'm say, if I raised in a very chaotic household and I go to porn or I go to video games to self-soothe or eating, I'm not feeling. I'm cut off. I'm not going to be able to go into my body and go, "Ooh, that I know what that feels like when I'm in fear. I feel constricted in my gut. I have like this knot in me and it feels heavy." Um, and again, that's where empathy is developed in my internally. So when I work with young men or guys, I usually work with guys when they put the ism down, porn, drugs, whatever, they start to feel. And feeling is the mental construct. The emotion is the felt sense, the body, constricted, warm, cold, prickly. These are all skills, again, that parents have to learn to live and model for their sons and daughters. While their sons and daughters are, sons are going to pathways or journeyman and doing a ropa and being around other men who are also living this. And that's how they'll learn. That's how because boys, once you get them in their body and they start seeing this guy, wow, they are inquisitive. They want to learn, like especially with meditation, like what's he doing? I'm meditating. You want to learn? It's it can be contagious. So empathy, self compassion, trust, uh, integrity. These are all internal skills I have to live. It starts with me, and and then the parents need to be around other parents who can say, it is so hard. And another parent goes, man, it really is, right? Because I go back to Bessel van de Kolk, the world's leading authority on trauma. He tells a story often. He says they got a bunch of people from Amnesty International, a bunch of torture victims, and they put them in with all these doctors and MDs and PhDs, and they didn't get well. But then they put them in a group of other survivors of torture who had gotten through it. Guess what? The group got well because they felt. They felt seen and heard. They knew that those people understood what they were going through. And that's why it's so critical for parents to be around other parents going through it. boys to be around other boys who are going through this process of growing up in 2025, which is daunting. So there it is.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for naming that about trauma as well as the part of what I gather being trauma informed is recognizing not only um the trauma or the negative, quote unquote, negative symptoms of it, but recognizing the um even the subtle elements of that healing process. So like you naming and modeling just now, that you're still, it still comes up, but after 35 years, being able to recognize it, that awareness, and to hold it, and to see, oh wow, this is amazing that I can see it and I can hold it. And that's something that in our mentor trainings we work on instilling and practicing those qualities, those practices, and then also being able um, to mirror the positive, like, wow, I see that you just caught yourself there, or to a teenager of like, um, wow, I remember like last week it felt like you were heavier when you were speaking to this in your body, and this week it still feels like I can feel that it's challenging, but you feel a little lighter, or it's like what are those subtle, like we have the space as mentors to support them in some ways from afar. We're not as entangled as a parent, for instance. And and then there's also multiple perspectives of like, um, one teenager might be really triggering me because of whatever. Maybe he has something that reminds me of my father, or some whatever. But then you're on the other end of that spectrum, and it's like you really like feel drawn to support him, and it's like that's another element too, is having those multiple perspectives, where it can easily support like these subtle layers of the healing process, or of the coming to accept and acknowledge, and um, be willing to be seen in them, in for however we are, and recognizing it's not about an end goal of getting, um, or not just about the end goal. It's about the process, and so I appreciate you naming all of that.
You got it.
The main features is that it will still be offering all of our other programs, including crafting passages where we make things with them, from um, building. Well, Kinsman, do you want to talk about crafting passages for a second? Kinsman leads our crafting passages program as well.
Yeah. So we have a few different crafting passages series that we do throughout the year generally. In the past, which may not happen this year, we'll do a 4-week or 5-week glass blowing series where we will all meet at the NC Glass Center once a week, and the boys will go through a series of learning different skills with glass blowing and get to bring home different things that they make. Another one that we do is through Asheville Middle School with their IRL program, which is an acronym for In Real Life. And different kids go to different groups through that program, and one of them is Journeyman's Crafting Passages. We're starting that one next week, which we've done several in the past, but this next one starts next week on Thursday, and we'll be building kestrel boxes, which is like a bird of prey. And in particular, lots of these kestrels have been displaced because of the storm, so we're having an ecologist / bird scientist come out, teach us about kestrels, teach us about the displacement, and then we will be building a very specific style of birdhouse for kestrels, and then we'll be donating them to, I think it's called the Raptor Society. And so there's an educational component about learning about the wildlife. There's an educational component for building skills, as well as we still do the very journeyman format of checking in, seeing how everybody's feeling, doing some embodiment practices of like, having some awareness of how our bodies, like each of our bodies are feeling, each of our emotional states are feeling, practicing different types of communication skills, different types of methods to deal with frustration that might come up with discouragement from building and maybe something not going very fruitfully or as smoothly as we might like. So yeah, there's both a crafting component and an engagement and communication and connection component as well. Yeah, we have other kind of ideas and have done some pursuits for leatherworking, different woodworking situations. But the consistent ones that we've had so far are glass blowing and woodworking. Anything else to add in there, Skylar?
No, I think that was great. So there's that aspect. There's also so pathways will meet within that closed cohort twice a month for a shorter council meeting, and then for a longer activity group on a Sunday, and then there's camping trips, at least 2 camping trips a year, and then 2 longer, more intensive, challenging rites of passage trips per year, and then there's a one-on-one mentoring component, and there's the opportunity to do these other types of programs too. But the minimum commitment would be to the twice a month meetings. Misty, do you want to share anything about your boys coming back from the rite of passage adventure weekend that they did last spring and your experience with the program?
Well, I mean, they were not the same when they came back. And just to give everybody a little bit of context, not the same in a good way. But part of that weekend was no devices, no technology, and what have you, and pitching a tent and doing all those kinds of survival skills. And you know, when they came back to us, you know, they were just really alive with remembrances about, you know, solidarity and community and all that they had learned about the land and indigenous people and indigenous practices, and just so much about, and I don't know that they articulated it this way, but I will say it this way, that they seem to come away with a better understanding of how to be a community member, and their role as young men in society. And you know, there was just so much wonder and delight. And for those of you, you know, on the call who, I know a lot of you work with teenagers, but definitely raising teenagers is complicated because they seem to be often aloof or bored or over it. And I would say that in their, you know, year and a half or so involved in Journeyman and, you know, IRL more broadly, that that is how you get their attention, how they come alive, how they ask questions and become curious, and there's a newness to the process. So there's just a lot that I could say, but specifically about that weekend, there was just so much enlightenment, and I would say too an appreciation of others, and increased empathy. What I'm so grateful for about Journeyman, and there are many things that I'm grateful for, but this bringing people together of different backgrounds, financially, socially, racially, education-wise, I think that has really been something that has nurtured my boys and given them greater insight into, you know, the depths of humanity and who we all are as individuals. So just so many wonderful things about that weekend.
Thanks, Misty. Awesome. Kinsman, do you want to add anything about the rites of passage weekend in particular, about your experience co-leading it?
Yeah. There's a whole gamut of different things to acknowledge and celebrate and reflect about for our weekend programs, whether it's the solo or the rites of passage weekend. But something that I feel is really valuable about it that's more broad and doesn't get into like the minutia and the processes so much that we get into is what I see is the power in the continuity of an extended amount of time that takes place over, you know, a couple days or a few days. And that is a dynamic that I observe of, you know, some of the surprise right when the group shows up of like, this is a very new setting, this is a very new environment, whether it's somebody's first time camping or first time going on like a group kind of event like that. And then it goes into the arc of some rebellion and some like kind of challenging the system and seeing if the boys can kind of rally up and keep things silly and nonchalant and not very intentional. And then I observe that they feel the container of the staff that are there, who will all take it, when I say seriously, I don't mean rigid and stern, but we all maintain consistency of really caring about the event and caring about the space and caring about the facilitation for a meaningful experience for these boys. And the silliness and I guess the silliness or the competition against the mood softens, and it becomes a much more communal, intentional environment where I know that I've witnessed just within a day or two of these boys being there being a real grounding, a real sense of responsibility, a real sense of pride when they recognize that the staff and the men observe them and appreciate them as human beings, and not just somebody in a student role or somebody as a young person role, but we're here to connect with you, and we're here to show you that you are worthy of being connected with. And yeah, I feel a lot of empowerment that comes from the boys and a lot of connection between the boys and the men. And sometimes that looks like reverence. Sometimes that looks like what I judge as more authenticity coming from the boys and not just playfulness, I don't care kind of attitude, but an intentionality and a reverence and an authenticity in how they express themselves. And I feel like that's kind of the broad takeaway that I really enjoy from those kinds of weekends.
Thank you. Yeah, it feels like you summarized it really well. But that being one aspect, I'm imagining that this year-long program will both be powerful because there's a lead up to doing this powerful experience together, a lead up of getting to know one another and to having fun, having kind of like those, what you were talking about, kind of the pushing against the system of like, this isn't cool, or I don't know if I'm like, if I need this or I'm into this, to dropping in deeper and it becoming like an authentic experience for them, something where they're willing to go into vulnerable things. They're not only willing, but the challenges that we create bring those things up, and then modeling that as mentors. And my hope is with this year-long program that it would also be really powerful to integrate afterwards. One of the things that I've noticed in the past is we'll have people come to these rites of passage weekends, and then some will continue with our program, like your sons Misty and Allie and August, but then many won't.
The context that helps these teenagers to both feel safe and in order to share and to look at what's really going on for themselves, while also being challenged and with adventures, with specific calls to action in which they can both play and explore their particular take on the world, on their own lives, their goals, mission, vision, to find our way in these new and challenging times.